Welcome on into today's panel. Welcome to TwitchCon Rotterdam Day 2, and I'd love to say Happy Pride! Fantastic. Thank you for coming today. Today we have Stream Smarter, social media for Twitch growth, and this is really insightful. I know there's been a lot of you have been attending a lot of the creator camps, and I hope that you find this panel today really, really insightful for growing your own accounts or for growing with those of you who will do moderating, etc. And I hope you find it very educational as well. So what we're going to do is we're just going to start with finding out who we have today. One of our members couldn't make it today, but that's okay. So if we could just do some brief introductions, get some qualifications out there. Could you tell me who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. Hello, everybody. I'm Owen Shoes TV, and I am a Minecraft streamer that does hardcore and story-based narrative stuff.
And I'm Studytime, and as the name suggests, I do co-working streams and IRLs.
Hello, I'm the Amber, and I do both of those. I do co-working and Minecraft, and also other cozy games.
My name is Rosanna TXT, and I do gaming, co-working, and a sprinkle of IRL.
I love to hear it. So this is kind of what we're starting out with today. We're going to be covering these topics. We're going to start with the streaming journey just so you can see how people have started, but we're going to really dive into Twitch and other social media and then specific strategies, and then we're going to do questions afterwards. So we really want to make sure we stick to being as educational as possible for today. So could we also start with your streaming journeys? Like, it's not always very cut and paste. I ended up here by accident. I don't even know. So I'd love to know like how you guys got into the space and to where you are today.
Sure, I can jump in here. Yeah, I started 5 years ago. It was always going to be Minecraft. It was the game that I loved the most, and we'll cover this in a little bit, I'm sure. But the thing that kind of really jump-started my whole career was TikTok. This was back during COVID pandemic times, so I had a lot of time to edit, and I threw together just stuff that was created specifically for TikTok rather than like clips of streams. I did a rap at one point, which was surprisingly odd to say that that's where my career started.
Do you remember it?
Yeah, but
we're going to get a live performance.
I don't think that's happening today. But yeah, that was where basically it all started, and then it's steamrolled from there.
All right. Same COVID time for me. I was also like in full lockdown, stranded in a little town of France, just working and doing absolutely nothing. And I needed the peer pressure. So I decided to do some co-working, thinking, oh, no one is going to watch this. And apparently it worked. And since then, I've been just doing more and more co-working, and then I randomly started to do also some IRL, because sometimes I need to touch grass.
I started also COVID time.
Let's go, COVID babies, woo!
A lot of free time, at home all the time, and I would always narrate in my head when I'm gaming, and I was like, well, why not out loud? So I started streaming, and then I think about a year and a half ago, also doing co-working that I believe I got and knew through her, and now I just still do both.
I actually started on YouTube, which I feel like fits this panel very well. There was not a big gap between making YouTube videos and starting streaming, because I realized I loved it and I wanted to transform into the live platform. And I've been just continuing to do that ever since, and branched out from gaming into a lot of other things like co-working and IRLs.
Okay, nice. That's great to hear, because I think sometimes people can really relate to being like, well, I've started here, I don't know where I'm going to go from there, or like, do I just like suddenly start out of nowhere? So I think it's always good to see like people who are very successful in what they do, to see how they've started, because I think it's always inspiring to find that out. But I'd really like to deep dive into what we're actually here to talk about today. So Twitch and other platforms. So I know you briefly touched upon it, Owen, but like, one of the things that you've mentioned before is how you found success on TikTok in the earlier days, and because you mentioned it before, right? So could you tell us how you've utilized TikTok as a tool to help you go through Twitch? And then obviously the question's open to you all as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So Twitch's discoverability has always been something that is quite a contentious point. It's difficult for people to be able to, you can't just expect to go live. You could do like 8 hours a day and people aren't going to be able to find you just because of the swarm of content that is being pushed out onto the platform every hour. TikTok allows you to kind of utilize that algorithm. And something that I played to my strengths, it says here like our experiences in successes and flops. Something that I noticed early on is that the moments that I was trying to capture on stream needed context to be funny, because they were like conversational things. I think you guys might have probably experienced this, where you're like, oh, this is a really good clip. And then you see it from an outside perspective and you're like, this makes no sense to anybody. And likewise, trying to kind of fit that narrative into TikTok was quite tricky, tricky for me. So I started to create TikToks that were more around like the entire experience was the TikTok itself. So I made something early on called like the Survival series, which was like a 1-minute quick intro on how to survive better in Minecraft, because I'm a hardcore streamer. So like, where do you die if you fall from like a certain height? Trying to do it as more of an educational thing. Likewise, trying to make sort of small cinematics that played into the stories that I was doing on stream. One of the biggest jumps that I had was MCCs happening later in Twitch Rivals. I was like, I'm going to make my own MCC using data packs and command blocks, and then I'm going to put a TikTok out being like, do you like MCC? Well, I've made a really scuffed one, and you can come and play it, see it on my Twitch. Here's a Google form link. It was very scuffed and rudimentary. It was very laggy, so shout out Noxcree for doing MCC, because that's higher than my budget. But it was an ability to be able to pull people from TikTok onto Twitch, and then once they were there, more eyes on you means more chance of people kind of having that retention and following through. I've always seen TikTok as a sort of like bicycle wheel that I can like put effort into spinning, and then if I let go, it'll go for a while, and if I take my hands off, eventually it will slow down. Some people might say right now I'm in a bit of a lull because I haven't done a lot of TikTok recently, so now I'm thinking, how can I start to put energy back into that wheel again?
Well, I suck at TikTok. No, but like no, TikTok's like maybe because I'm a different generation. But I was never able to do something great there. But I for sure like with other social medias, and I found like even putting like small content out on Instagram that helps not just like to be found, but also like for your community, as you were saying, like you put out something like cinematics from your streams, like maybe someone that was watching your streams and watched the cinematic was like, oh, I like it. And like that keeps like people part of it. And maybe they share with the other friends, like that's the streamer that I was watching, you know, that I was telling you about. And it's always like a good way to make like content out there like that.
I also feel like other social media is very shareable. So if you have Instagram and you just post on there, you can do more than what you can just quickly put on Twitch. So I feel like it's also a really nice way to connect with your audience a little bit, because it's more, I feel like, conversational, a little bit more real life. And then on Twitch, you do your routine, your games, that stuff. So I feel like you can combine both and like that kind of cover more bases.
I think also something that I realized when we were talking earlier about like successes and flops is I started on YouTube and I tried to do like build videos and let's plays, and I realized if you don't really have an audience on a platform yet, everyone's going to be like, okay, well, why would I watch you play The Sims specifically? And then I realized that when I was on Twitch, people did enjoy that because they could like interact with my gameplay and they could, you know, give me suggestions. But then on Twitch, when I was like trying to explain something, people were like, this is not really the place to do a tutorial. So I figured that I do tutorials on YouTube. I use questions from my Twitch chat to figure out what people want to know, and then I make a YouTube tutorial about it, and then I'm like kind of build sort of an ecosystem where I ping pong people between the platforms. So in my Twitch chat, I'll tell them, go watch my YouTube tutorial on this. They'll subscribe to that channel, and then that channel grows, and then people find that, and they find a tutorial, and they're like, they come to my Twitch chat because I mentioned it in the videos, and they're like, yeah, I watched that tutorial on how to build, and now I can see you like build live on stream to kind of see your process, and it really started to work of like figuring out where to do what type of content to make it like work together, basically.
I think that's really interesting, and I think that touches upon something that is really insightful to a lot of people and they can learn from today, is that you've done some kind of tutorial based. So the type of content that you're doing is a tutorial to teach people where they can access a pre-recorded video and then they learn something from it, and then they can also find you doing something live. But I'd also like to touch upon what you've mentioned earlier, study time, because I think a lot of people also feel like, I can't do social media, it's really hard, but you're still doing it. So you're saying like you can throw something up on there. I think something that I've definitely noticed, and I've been like mentioning to other people, is like, oh, actually, can we get a show of hands in the room? Who has seen, no offense, who has seen some really low effort content on social media get millions of views and millions of likes?
Oh yeah, mine.
Okay, cool. So why are we overthinking what we're posting, right? You've all seen low effort stuff, and it's sometimes relatable. So I think that's really interesting. So study time, when it comes to the type of content for someone who feels like they're not that great at like TikTok or social media, what type of content do you recommend putting out, and what do you put out?
So I feel like one of the biggest issues with the social media is when you feel like, oh, I don't feel I'm that good. It's exactly that thought that you're thinking, oh, I'm not good, so you don't put out anything. And that's stupid, because like at the same time that you're consuming content, every time you're watching content, like I mean, I feel like on an average, each one of us must probably have at least 1 hour on social medias. I hope. I mean, otherwise I'm weird for having 8 hours on a day. But So like I feel like you're consuming, so you know what you like, you know what other people are watching, and I think it's just like going over that little step of insecurity that you have. And so for now, what I'm putting out, I put out clips that I find funny. Sometimes people don't find them funny, and that's okay. Sometimes I put out a clip and I'm like, this is horrible, and then it blows up, and like, all right, you like it, you take it. But it's, I feel like that's the biggest issue, like not be discouraged of like, oh, this is not good enough. Perfectionism can just stop you there, and you just don't put anything. And in the end, you just learn by doing. Like you do it once, and you're like, oh, this one worked. Okay, so maybe I can do it like that. And then you try it, it doesn't go. So, oh, maybe because of this reason. But until you don't put something out, you will never learn.
I feel like I want to add to that quickly because I realized that you said of like, oh, sometimes I find something funny and then, other people don't, or sometimes I do something and I don't realize why it's fun, but then it blows up. In relation to Twitch, I think if you're streaming, your community is key in that. Like, encourage them to clip because they will clip what they enjoy to see from you. So use the clips made by your community and put those out there because probably that will draw in audience from other platforms that will enjoy your content as well.
I think that's really insightful. And to me as well, so you've been putting out tutorials, right? And I would assume as well, so if you're doing tutorials for things like builds, sometimes they can be a bit more timely. Say there's a new pack that's been out and you want to play with it and test it out. And I think that's really good. But when it comes to like evergreen content as well, I mean, you focus a lot on evergreen stuff. So for those of you who don't know what evergreen content is, it's something which is always timely at that point. So you can watch it at any point and it still makes sense. Something which is not evergreen is like, I played Elden Ring on day one and this was my first reaction. As soon as that's gone, everyone else has played it, it's done. Or reaction videos, they're very, very timely and they have to be put out very quickly, which can lead to a lot of burnout as well. Trying to keep up with everything is very intense. I'd also like to point out, if you do reaction videos on YouTube, they're not monetizable, so I wouldn't really focus a lot on those. Anyway, so furthermore, when it comes to evergreen content, Owen, how do you feel like, you must do quite a lot of planning for those, and what does that look like from your point of view?
Yeah, I think when people do YouTube in like conjunction with Twitch, they can kind of see it as every single video they're trying to like pitch hit, home run, try and knock it out of the park and see what they can do to fit to the algorithm. But I realized early on that if I wanted to put a lot of effort into my Twitch career, I wasn't going to have a lot of time to focus on what was the next big thing that I wanted to do. So I fit my YouTube channel to be around the branding, or not specifically the branding, but the model of Netflix. I wanted to be the Netflix of the Minecraft YouTubers. The idea being is that if you discover my platform at any point, you can go onto my YouTube and there are serialized videos, all of which are now evergreen content. I've got rats, pirates, outsiders. There's a lot more to come. And the idea being is that over the years, doesn't matter when you found Outsiders, you will watch it if you liked the first episode, and that's 24 hours of guaranteed watching. Naturally, you're going to see that like fall off, where you get like the first video maybe had like 200,000, and by the end of it, the second to last video has 20,000. But even though you see that fall off, the ad revenue that you get from that and the engagement from the community is huge. It is in my opinion, a really healthy just for my mental, a healthy way to go about making content, because I don't have to be like, God, that video flopped, and now I got to do I've got to think up a whole new video. It's like, that was one episode of a big series. It's a part of a much larger scope. That's personally how I've done YouTube. I don't know if anybody else has had success doing something different or the same.
I just wanted to touch on that because I have the same experience where I like to do series. Sometimes like a one-off video can work too, but with that, you have the risk of thinking, oh, this is really fun. They will like this build. They will like this mod pack I'm reviewing. And then people don't end up liking it. But then it's one video. It's fine. But when you do series, you really get engagement. You get community. You get people wondering when the next episode is going to be. And you really build that sense of an audience that is there to watch that specifically. And then if you kind of keep the same style, they'll also watch your other like series and stuff probably. So I feel like that's a really interesting and fun way to go about it.
Yeah, I definitely want to second all of this as well. I do series adjacent to my tutorials. I always see it like as in I want to have a hero video, which is like one that is easy to discover me as a new channel. That's usually not a series. That's usually a standalone video, which will drive a lot of traffic to the channel because it's a searchable topic. And then from there, as soon as people are like on my channel, I want to make sure that there's evergreen content of like, hey, you like The Sims? actually, did you know that I wrote a legacy challenge that I play myself? And then also people will not only watch it, but start playing it, and that makes them more loyal, meaning that potentially they might come over to Twitch to hang out and spend their time live with you.
Yeah, definitely. When you create a series, you create like that expectation from people and be like, oh, what is the next one? I liked it. Yeah, or like just let's watch the ones before. Let's see, for sure.
I think that's really good and a really good example to everyone here that there doesn't have to be just one type of content that you're going to be putting out. There's so many different avenues and different ways that you can go about it. It just takes you some planning and figuring out like what do you want to do. And so to bring this back to Twitch, obviously we've got those people who want to create evergreen content that sometimes it can be a little bit different, etc. But you've also got someone like Studytime, for instance, who's like posting a clip from their stream, but it's obvious that she's streaming. So at this point, the clips that go live on social media is really great because then everyone's like, well, it's obviously a live stream. Like, otherwise, why is she filming herself in the public, like walking around down this beach and got bitten by a crab? Like, that's really random. So then we can start to be like, okay, cool. So this then would drive you back to your Twitch account, right? And
Yeah,
You don't
we-
even have to promote it that much because it's just there. You see the chat, spamming, and people know.
Yeah, and I forgot to clarify that at the end of every single one of the YouTube episodes, it's basically detailed. All of this was streamed live on Twitch. If you want to see the series as it happens, go to twitch.tv/OrangeJuiceTV. If people are interested enough in the series as it's happening, that's how a lot of people have been like, hi, I'm from the YouTube series, and I didn't realize that we were like this far ahead in the story, but I'm like locked in now. So that's a great way to kind of channel it back over.
Yeah, and so something here that Owen's mentioning is something called a call to action. So when you're working in branding and you're doing campaign work, you'll see this, for instance, if you see like a poster for a new film coming out, it doesn't just say like the name of the film. Like if it says something like, I don't know, Twilight. Let's use Twilight, right? It's going to say Twilight, and then if it gives you no information, what are you going to do with that information? Nothing. So it's going to give you a time and it's going to say book tickets now or buy tickets now. That's the call to action and that's what it's saying. So then it makes you think that's what I need to do. Not that we all suddenly feel like it, but when we have marketing things, that's what it is. It's a call to action. And so what Owen's describing here is the call to action is, by the way, it's on Twitch. And so that's a really good way to then like they finish that and their call to action at the end of something is to go find something else. And I think that's really insightful. So you've all got different ideas of different options that you can do when creating other forms of content in addition to your Twitch. But I'd love to hear some flops you guys have had, because it's interesting to see you guys being very successful in what you do. But I mean, it's not always been that way. One time my lecturer told me that every artist churns out their fair share of shit, and I would definitely agree with that. And I think the same thing happens with all of us. So what is a flop that you're comfortable with sharing with us all today?
Mass dumping Twitch clips without context on a channel where you don't engage any other way. I've tried this with TikTok. I had maybe one blow up, didn't drive a lot of people to Twitch, and then I just was like, rinse and repeat. I got this. It's not been great for my mental health or for my channel. So that's definitely not something that is made for me.
It sounds like you put a lot of effort into it as well to just dump and dump and dump. And then you just keep thinking, if I keep dumping, and it sounds like that's going to be quite difficult as well on you, as you've mentioned.
Yeah, and it's also I am personally someone who loves to reevaluate and reflect, but this is one of those things of like, I can't be bothered. I don't like TikTok as a platform personally. It's not my vibe. So then I'm like, I'll just do the bare minimum, but I think that also shows, and therefore it doesn't work. So I just kind of maybe should do the reflection part of like, even though I don't like it, maybe I should reevaluate whether then I should be posting on that platform, or I should just maybe focus that type of energy that I'm putting into it onto something else.
Maybe something that didn't work for me, but I think could work for other people. I tried to multi-stream YouTube and Twitch, but I have a little bit of a different strategy for both. So whereas YouTube, I film it separately because I'm too chatty when I stream live. So then there's no content that's interesting for people who weren't there live sometimes. So I tried to multi-stream. It was a little bit hectic. I didn't know, like, does that one chat know what the other chat is saying? Do I read everything out loud? And then I couldn't really focus on my game. So I think it could be great for other people, but it was a little bit of a flop for me.
I do have a very flop story, and it's a bit embarrassing.
Oh my God, we have to hear it now.
So, like, I do a lot of IRLs, right? And one time I was driving a car, and yeah, you already see where it's going. All right, and I was driving, and I was driving in Italy. I don't know if you've ever driven in Italy. Don't do it. I was like just enjoying my ride. Like I don't look at chat at all when I'm driving. I'm just like going straight. And there's just a truck that decided to like go into the road, and I'm like, oh my god! And I just screamed because like nothing happened. Nothing happened. Don't worry, I'm alive. Nothing, no crashes, no nothing. But still, it was like, oh my! Because when you're driving, you get scared. And I remember putting that clip out, thinking, I'm clearly right. That truck is stupid. Their fault. Well, according to Instagram and a lot of bunch of angry people, I cannot drive, even though according to ChatGPT I was right. That brought a lot of people into the stream, being like, "Oh, get out of the road! You suck! You should not be driving." So it was kind of a follow-up, but at the same time, engagement. So, that's okay.
A little bit of rage baiting in there. It works sometimes, as you can see.
I don't think I have. I was about to say I don't have an example of flopping. That sounds very.
All right, flex.
Yeah, so I've never failed. I think
Wow.
something that I've had a lack of success in is, and something I would want to warn people about, is overfitting your model to what the success that you see. So you are one streamer, one creator on perhaps any kind of platform such as YouTube and TikTok, and there's a lot of analytics that can get shown to you, and it's very easy. Overfitting your model is basically tuning the way that you do things to fit a very specific subset of data. So you might see like, okay, I uploaded a TikTok and then that blew up on a Monday at 4, and then I uploaded one on Tuesday at 2 and it completely flopped. So presumably Monday at 4 is like the best thing, or like specifically this track or this type of joke. The only way you're going to be able to get any kind of actual sense of what the algorithm wants is to take every streamer in your genre and kind of collate all that data, which is what is a very big task, firstly. If you want to go ahead and try and do that, trying to see where the trends are and following them can be a good strategy. But I would warn against kind of trying to find patterns, because as humans, we're really good at finding patterns in what your videos, the successes have been. It can be good if you're like, okay, people really like this type of series of TikTok that I do, great. But if you're trying to like link together, I don't know, you used a backing track on these specific ones from a specific game and that did really well, give it a go, but just, make sure you hazard against just overfitting it to that spot.
I think that's a really good way to also see it as well. You can't necessarily be like, I used this puzzle piece and it worked and it finished this puzzle, and I will therefore use the exact same thing for every... And you can't really do it that way. But I think what's important as well, which also sounds a little bit like what you guys have been doing, is sometimes just doing a little bit of an experiment and just knowing that if you put something out there, even if you really like it, it's an experiment at the end of the day, and to not be like too hung up on the fact that like it didn't really catch flight. The personal thing that I always use is like, if I make a paper aeroplane and I throw it out into the wind, sometimes it catches flight. I might have made a really solid paper aeroplane, but the wind was facing the wrong direction that day. And you know what? Sometimes that happens and it flops. And I think sometimes when you throw out content, especially if you're just like throwing stuff out there, in some cases, like sometimes it'll land, sometimes it won't. But you can try and make better paper aeroplanes and try, but don't always feel like, oh my goodness gracious, that's it, that's the end. Like my paper airplane died. Kind of see it that way.
Can I quickly add to that? Because I think a lot of people are scared to experiment. I remember when, especially on Twitch, I was trying to get Twitch partner. I was like, oh shit, but I can't experiment because like I know that this type of content is getting me this amount of viewers. So like, what if I experiment and it goes down? And I personally think that this is the biggest enemy of growth, because it keeps you locked in that mindset, like in that box that you've created for yourself. And sometimes that box is amazing. That box has hundreds of viewers. Sometimes that box keeps you also in a mindset that stops you from growing, because experimenting in the end is the best way to grow. So even if it dips for like a little moment, then you can either learn from it and you realize that that experiment wasn't it and you can go back, or you can realize, hey, maybe I can grow in this, just like you started out with streaming, and take it step by step. And my very clear example from this is when I started co-working, I had 30 average viewers. And at the time I just had hit partner, and it was rough because I was like, okay, I've fallen off. I reached partner. That was it for me. That was my highlight. And then I continued doing it because I loved the format and I loved the people that watched it. And now I'm a Twitch ambassador. So it happens.
Can I also say, sorry, you were just about to speak. If you're scared to experiment because you're like kind of in this niche already, sometimes you just stop enjoying it and you can't force to keep on doing something because it works, because then you'll stop loving it and then it will stop being entertaining because people can really tell that you're not loving it and it kind of just trickles down. So then why not explore? You'll find something new that you love. Other people will see that you love it and then it'll just all go better again.
I feel like your flops are better than mine. I did one post on Facebook and got banned.
Oh, wow.
All I'm allowed to do is read the terms of service and log out. Anyway, that's
post.
mine. One post. I was pretty humbled. I didn't think
What did you post?
I just posted one of my cosplay paints. I was pretty humbled. I didn't think it looked like I was painted, but clearly I was. Anyway, so enough of the flops. Let's go for some of the successes. If you could pick like some really solid successes that you've had with using other platforms and Twitch, like what would you pick?
I think for me, it would definitely be YouTube and that like sort of viewing it as an ecosystem of where does what content fit best.
For me, it would also be YouTube. I feel like that's the channel that I love exploring the most next to Twitch.
I've been using mostly Instagram, and lately I've been trying to also do some YouTube things, but mostly they're for me, but they're going very well, and I see how a lot of people are tuning from YouTube on Twitch. Even though I don't promote Twitch in any way, and the content is in another language about a different topic, and it still like drives people to Twitch because they somehow find me, and that's definitely also working well.
I've mentioned TikTok.
Really?
Yeah, a couple times. I've mentioned TikTok. The perfect storm that occurred was back when Outsiders first started, and I took just the first stream. And like I said, I was trying to make TikToks to my strengths, and I found that for me, forcing it into a like specific narrative that was created for TikTok, the platform, rather than just taking bits of the stream and kind of throwing it in as a montage, showed a lot of success, and I think is the reason why I'm sat here today, because all of the TikToks that I posted about Outsiders cemented me as the Twitch streamer for Outsiders. I definitely wasn't the POV, but I was one of the main ones, and I think that contributed to a lot of success, not only for that series, but every series that I had after. So short form can really help, and it really can drive your Twitch career like into the distance.
That's really insightful. Before we move on to the next section, if you had to pick one thing that you really wish you knew before you started, what advice would you give yourself?
Don't think everything has to be perfect everywhere before you start.
No, I have to think about something else.
Good luck.
I'm still thinking.
It's all right. Let's give him a moment to cook.
Maybe it's something that we were talking about before about like experimenting. Like try as many things as possible. Don't be scared. Who cares? And like I remember that there was a period where I was stagnating a little bit. And I also saw like the viewership was going a little bit down because I was doing every day the same thing all day, which is co-working, but it's good. And I decided like one day, listen, this has to change. Let's find something to change about it. And like change small things. And I was scared like hell to change them because people were used to the other things. But I added small things and it improved. I just test it out. Maybe it's gonna suck and who cares? The day after you can just erase that and do something else.
This one isn't specifically about other platforms, but understanding music and copyright is a big part of your job as a streamer. And I wish I had learned that when I was younger. Thankfully, before I actually started as Orange Juice TV, I was under other names, now buried. You can't find them, don't try. I was doing other things. I was making videos that were using copyrighted music, and then the other platforms were going like, okay, this is copyrighted, you can't monetize this. And in my head, I was like, well, I'm like 15, I'm probably never going to do content creation full time. So like the chances of me actually ever being able to monetize this video is incredibly low. So I'm just going to keep using music that I want to, even though it's going to get copyrighted. Wasn't a great idea. Thankfully, none of the stuff that I've made under Orange Juice TV has been copyrighted because I learned that lesson very early on. So just recognizing game-like soundtracks are a really good shout. Look up which ones are copyright-free and which ones that you're allowed to like stream and use in YouTube videos, and those can go a long way. Stray's a really good one. Would recommend.
I found something. Feeling comfortable with your community, setting boundaries, and just being yourself. And you should not let other people make you feel like you should do something different because they don't like this. Then they can just leave and find somebody else that does do that. I feel like it's hard to learn when you start out, though, because you people please. You're like, oh, okay, my first viewer, I need to keep my first viewer. and then you get 20 viewers, and then you're trying to make 20 people super happy, and then you start doing something else, and half of them like it, half of them don't, what do? And you can't split yourself into a billion pieces. Do what you like the most and just be honest about it. Be very clear, be open, as much open as you want to be. And I feel like that'll get you further than trying to do the perfect thing all the time.
I think that's really good, especially when speaking about boundaries, because some of the things that people have that they find very difficult when it comes to boundaries with their community is they follow you on Twitch and then they follow you on other social media sites. Obviously, that's more of our topic today. And then if you're like, if they comment, sometimes they're like, you didn't comment back to me, you didn't reply to my DM. Okay, but like, let's rewind a little bit. They know what a boundary is, but they're not thinking about it because, for instance, if you go live from 7 p.m. till 11 p.m. at night, you can talk to me between 7 p.m. and 11 p.m. at night, and that in itself is a boundary. Sometimes people need this to kind of be explained a little bit, but keep that in mind if you're going to be a creator as well, because that is a boundary. That is the window of when they can talk to you. Anything outside of that, you do not owe anyone a DM reply. You don't need to reply to their comments because that's outside of the window where you're happy to talk to people. So I think the boundary thing is really important, especially not even just doing like social media content growth, because people think, oh my God, but I should be replying to all these people to make sure that they stay in my chat. No, you absolutely do not owe anyone personal messages as well. So I think that was a really good insight. The thing I learned was don't post on Facebook, but we move. All right, so I'd like to get into some more of the specific strategies, especially when it comes to branding, like the do's and don'ts of branding. So I know we've touched upon this a little bit, but for all of our audience as well who are definitely taking notes, either mentally or physically, those of you who are doing things for your social media, especially when you're doing something different, how are you approaching this? So what exactly, if you could like summarize it in like bullet points, what are you doing on Twitch, and is it different to what you're doing on other sites as well? Because we've touched upon it a little bit, but what is it, how is it different, etc.?
So I do Sims live streaming on Twitch is what I started with, and then I was also doing YouTube for The Sims. So those were very similar. So I also made sure to have the same name, because if people find you on one place, they want to find you on the other. But then at one point, I actually was kind of wanting to do more content on productivity and lifestyle and stuff like that. And I was like, I want a new name because it's different enough that I don't want to put it on my Sims YouTube channel. But I still wanted to be recognizable, so I took a part of my username, which is a TXT part, and I put extra in front of it. It's for all my extra text, for all the other things that are not related to The Sims. And I've heard a lot of people that were like, oh, actually it did click because the TXT part was recognizable enough. And I think you can do that with a name, but you can also do that with other things in your branding. If there is something that they can recognize you by and you want to do something that is different from what you do on your live stream, make sure that that little part of recognizability is still there, so they feel that sort of I'm coming home comfort, like I recognize this, even though it's very different types of content.
I think like another very important thing, but it's should come in some way natural, is like to keep your own personality in each single social media, because that's the first thing that you get recognized for. Also, I've seen a lot of like content, like at the very beginning, maybe I was trying to do some kind of content on social medias on Instagram where I was like, I'm giving you tips on how to study better. I suck. I have a very bad focus. So on stream, people would see that. And then out I was putting, and then after I was putting like tips on how to be more productive. But no, that's not really me. And it took me a little bit of time to understand that is not my branding. My branding is like, I am really bad at it. If you want to, I can tell you how I'm managing it right now, but maybe in a week is not going to work anymore. So like for sure, like keeping that kind of transparency between all the different type of persona that you have on single social media.
I think a low-hanging fruit, an easy win is just having consistent branding across all of your different platforms. If you have if you're on Twitter and you have that banner at the top, that should probably relate in some way to your branding that you have on Twitch. It could be your offline screen, or if your offline screen is different, having that feed into some of the other stuff, such as the YouTube banner that you have at the top. In terms of time management, I think the 20/80 rule or the 80/20 rule is, a lot of you probably have already heard it, but just in case you haven't, it's good to have heard at some point in your life. 20% 20% of the effort that you put in will yield 80% of the results. That last 80% of effort that you put in will only get a little bit in return. Your job as a streamer, because unfortunately we are our own boss, and so whenever you're not working, if you're not working, nobody's working. And that can be very detrimental to your mental health if you're trying to enjoy your day off and going like, but nothing's happening because I'm here and I'm not doing anything. So understanding where your time is put best, where your effort is during that like working hours, so that you're not mindlessly flogging at something which isn't going to get you big returns. Unless, I'm actually quite guilty of this. Recently, Twitch obviously did the highlights, bringing it down to like 100 hours, right? I was one of the few people that was over by about 3,000 hours because I archive everything. Or you could probably argue that spending the 2 weeks that I did downloading everything, archiving it, filing it, and then re-uploading it elsewhere onto a VODs channel probably isn't going to make me much money in the process. That is a very good example of 80% of the effort of my week and a very small amount of results. I mainly did it because I am a digital hoarder. I like the memories, and the community also like going back and looking at the VODs, so it was sort of for them as well. But that is a pretty good example of bad time management. A lot of the other stuff you might notice on all of my socials, nothing's happened over the past 2 weeks because I've been doing that. So I'm excited to get back into what we've been talking about.
I'm so sorry. Did you know there's a direct export button?
I did, yeah, but I had to download them all and then change the audio files in order to... Oh. It was a long process.
Okay, all right. I was like, is this how he finds out?
No. Twitch did a good job. The direct export was perfect, but I needed to do a bit more of a roundabout way.
Got you. Okay. So another thing that I think is really important is that we always hear the term like work smarter, not harder. But like, okay, but like what does this actually mean for a streamer? And you touched upon this as well. Like if you're not live, you're not earning any money. Like, so maybe you should just stay live. And like, oh my God, like if you stay live, then you're going to hit up a different time zone and maybe different people will come in. And maybe you're going to get another raid. If I just stay live for 5 minutes longer, I'm going to get, and like, so you can see why you can very quickly spiral out of control when it comes to things like this. So especially even harder when you're managing multiple different like social media sites. You've got Twitch, which is kind of relying on you being there. But then you're also handling all these other sites as well. So does this mean like hiring a team? Like, are you recycling posts and keeping up with all these platforms can be so exhausting. So how are you handling this? Amber, I'd like to kind of start with you first, actually, if that's all right, just because you've got quite an interesting approach to this, how you edit your videos.
I edit my YouTube videos while doing my co-working streams. So I can kind of work on...
Good hack.
Exactly. It's like double working actually in a way. I also do have one of my moderators does edit for me, but not everything. So I just kind of divide a little bit. But I think I do have a bad strategy in a sense of like the branding because my YouTube is very different than my Twitch. But at least I can use my co-working to work on the YouTube.
I think it still aligns though, because it's like...
Yeah, it's not one fast rule.
Yeah.
No, but my YouTube is like without face cam and it's... Obviously, YouTube is not as interactive, and then my Twitch is more like I'm gaming, but it's like a talk show in a little bit. You know,
Yeah.
It sounds like you've done that deliberately, though. I think.
Yeah, I can't stop talking, so that's just.
And I think that's an important distinction to make. Like, there's not really you can make design decisions in your branding both on Twitch and other platforms, which some people you might be worried like, oh, is this the right branding move to make? I think most importantly, it should be deliberate. Kawaii Guy talks about this a lot. Deliberate choices that you're making for your platforms is one of the main ways you're going to find success, rather than just being like, just let it do whatever it's going to do. So, yeah.
Makes sense.
I also wanted to add to that of deliberate choices. I'm quite infamous. Anyone who's a longtime community member knows that I changed my branding every month. It was very deliberate. I was very intentional, but I just cannot make decisions and long-term commitments. I'm also one of the people that doesn't put stickers on things because I'm scared to put stickers on things.
I get that, yeah.
So, but I feel like it's also okay, again, kind of circling back to the experimenting, also with your branding, it takes time to figure out who you are and what you want to represent and what you want it to look like. But again, like the deliberate part, I think, is the most important there, even if it changes over time.
For me, like I'm very lazy in putting out content. Like when we were talking about working smarter, not harder, I'm barely working. Like I'm too lazy for doing all of that. So like I also use a lot of co-working streams to like do to create the content, think about the content and all of that. I'm also very lucky to have a friend that is helping me out with all the social medias because I'm lazy and I'm bad with time. So like if I have to post something at a specific time, I will forget. So that for sure, I'm very grateful for that. So for sure, like try to find help. And then another way to work smarter, not harder, would be definitely, we were talking about it before also, to have other people in your community to make clips. And then so that's already like something that can help you out, like having someone else and give them like badges or stuff if they do good clips, and that takes away some of your job to do it, so you don't have to do that for yourself.
Yeah, if you don't mind jumping in. There's something that I've been feeling more and more recently. I'm just going to call it like the editor's paradox or something. And I'm interested to see if any of you guys in the audience have felt this as well. Where you're a Twitch streamer, you have a certain amount of hours that you can give to your career per week if you don't want to get burnt out. And you're recognizing that you're going live, you have a certain schedule. You want to be able to get more content out, such as YouTube or TikToks or Instagrams or YouTube Shorts or whatever it is. You don't have the time to do this, and you are starting to realize that you're kind of running short on the hours that you have. But you also recognize, like, okay, so maybe I'll get an editor to do it for me. But then you run into the problem that you have to pay the editor usually, or at least you should. And if you pay the editor, you're maybe at the size of a content creator where the video is not going to make the money back that you're going to spend on the editor. So now it's just like a net loss, and you can't operate over that over the course of however many years. I haven't found an answer to this, so don't expect me to go, well, here's the answer. But I have tried a new approach where, firstly, it's about mindset, I think. You need to understand that the videos that you're creating on these other platforms are investments into your career. The idea being is that they will funnel people into your Twitch who will be able to support you, hopefully, if they're in a financially stable spot to be able to do it. Additionally, I've onboarded a community member. I put out a Google form and was like, if anybody's interested in doing big amounts of VOD cut downs, these are the parameters that you need to be able to satisfy, like using Adobe, for example, was one of them. And so we got into a call, and I was like, I can't promise big payouts for this. I can promise 50% of the revenue of this entire project. That will be to you. I've made the content. If you're willing to work as a VOD cut down person in order to make this work, I've never tried this before, so I can't promise that you're going to make hand over fist in cash. But if you're willing to put that time into this, I think this would be an interesting project. And they're game, and we're trying it out. It may work, it may not. I'll get back to you on results. But trying to find other strategies to be able to work with editors to alleviate that time can be something that you should look into. And I'm still finding out that process myself.
I would like to second what you said earlier about it being an investment. I definitely did not earn the money with the YouTube videos when I started working with editors, but I was basically just using the money that I earned on Twitch to pay for an editor to do things for YouTube. And then now we're in like a position where the videos are making that money back, and it was definitely an investment. It did take time, but it was worth it because now I get to do this as my job full time.
Yeah, I'd actually also like to add to that as well, if it's all right. One of the things that I think is also good to utilize is the scheduling tool on social media sites. So I tend to do a thing where I just schedule, I'll sit there in the morning and I'll schedule a bunch of posts maybe for the next few days, and then I won't look at social media for the next few days. So I do a thing where I create very, very high quality videos, but I also create a bunch of very low quality videos. As we touched upon earlier, you've all seen low quality stuff do really well. Why are we overthinking it? So what I sometimes do is I just post the low quality stuff so I can get stuff out there very, very quickly. And then I work on the high quality stuff in the background. So stuff's still being posted and it's still going out. I've got stuff where it's just like mirror selfies or whatever, and I'm posting those and they do pretty well too. So I wouldn't necessarily hold yourself back by being like, it's not fully edited, I haven't done everything. If you make like a little bit of a mixture of the low effort stuff by like just posting a bunch of clips on there, they don't have to be perfectly refined. You've seen stuff on the internet that's like CCTV footage. That's not perfectly edited, is it? So I think that's really good to add as well, like mixing that in just to alleviate some of the stress on yourself, because yeah, it can be a lot of money to hire an editor, and you can never guarantee that you're going to get that money back, and it does take a while to build that up too.
Can I add to something? I feel like it's related to the time management part, but you kind of just mentioned it in your story. And that I think is having a system for yourself of like, if you want to do multiple platforms, unrelated of whether, like, how many hours you stream, or if you do like evergreen content or just TikToks or whatever. I think for yourself, doing it a couple of times and like writing down your workflow, I think what you said of like, okay, so I post these videos and like the lower quality, and then I work on the higher quality, and like these are my steps, I think sometimes breaks that barrier of, ah, shit, I want to do all of this, but every single time I feel overwhelmed, or every single time I feel like I have to reinvent the wheel on how to start a script or start a YouTube video. As soon as you've got that workflow for yourself, and it takes some tries to figure out what works for you, but write it down somewhere so that every single time you want to do it, you can just fall back on your brain from 2 weeks ago rather than using your today brain.
I think this is really insightful. So we've just got 2 more things before we're going to move into questions from you guys. Those of you who are fully niched in your content, do you ever feel restricted, and how do you manage that?
At the very beginning, I was just doing co-working, only co-working. Whenever I was trying to do something outside of that category, it was just dropping down the views. And every time I was like, this is bad. I'm never going to make it. It's going to be so bad. I should just go back to co-working. No one cares about anything else. But then I realized that different kind of content helps you a lot, even if you're getting like less views. First of all, it's for your community. Most of the times, if you are a co-working streamer and you start doing Valorant, like people that are sticking out for Valorant are like the ones that actually want to see you screaming at the screen, and they want to actually be there, and they really like it. And also, it's really, really important to me to do. I learned this with time, that it's really good that you niche down on something because people will recognize you because of that. But then you also want to go do something else. So then you reach out a different community, and then you want to reach out to this other thing, because like that's how you get to know in different situation. I was known in the coding community, which I would I've never coded on stream. So like it's really useful to like reach out. You also meet new people. You can do really cool collaborations, that for sure. And that's it. Also, that for the content is the same thing. Like you want to also do some collaborations on social medias with other people, so you get into that little pot of other people around.
I think someone once gave me a metaphor for this, because I was trying to explain to them, start in one place and then grow from there. And they're like, you first need to grow roots before you can branch out. And I was like, that makes so much sense. You need to have sort of a home base, some place that you feel like, okay, this is like the core of what I do at first. Because if you start to do variety from day one, it's so incredibly difficult to grow. Also for your community to grow roots within your space. But if you start with like a starting point, and then from there you have like a solidified community, you have people that show up for you instead of the things that you do on stream. From there you can start to branch out, and you can start to explore new things, and you can find like new communities that will root also within that core community, again, that show up for you instead of the content that you make.
I also feel this, whereas if you've been streaming for a longer time, you will have found a community that's there for you. And then it's quite, I wouldn't say it's always easy to do different things and to branch out. You will still probably see a dip in viewership, but you have this base level of community that are there. So I do think that makes it easier.
Yeah, perfect. And so we're kind of like touching on the last one. So when it comes, I would be more than welcome to take any questions, by the way. So we're just going to get the microphone set up, and then feel free to line up, and we'll do as many questions as we've got time for. But I'd just like to finish with you guys on, as a community, do you see a difference between your followers, like within communities, on the different platforms, and just how? Feel free to start lining up for questions if you've got questions, by the way.
You can always tell when a YouTube viewer comes into a Twitch chat. I had chicken nuggets for dinner. That's great, man. That's good for you. Yeah, they're all very lovely, but they all are very different. And the natural ecosystem of the platform is going to change the way that they talk. And they don't stand out any more than when you get like crossover into different ones. And you've got to be ready for that. And we have like documentation with the moderation team that I have, which is like how to make a Twitch chatter. We're going to take this TikTok person and we're going to increase their attention span, and we're going to tell them to stop talking about what they did for homework because it's not related to the stream unless I ask about it. And slowly you can kind of build up that Twitch etiquette in them, which I'm sure you've all experienced.
That's really cool that you have a way to get there.
Like a way to redeem them from brain rot to another type of brain rot.
There's such a big difference. It's so funny. You can really tell who comes from what platform. And I do think it's because Twitch is the place for community. and they're there to talk with everybody and not just tell you.
Yeah, so that's definitely the biggest difference, maybe because on Twitch, what you want is like people to talk to each other also in their chat, right? Which is something that can happen also in the other comments, but it's not as pushed as it could be on Twitch. So it's really fun to like, don't talk to me, talk to everyone here in chat.
I think that's really great. And I'd love to just end on a similar story with the YouTube. I knew I had someone coming from my YouTube channel in my Twitch stream the other day because they just came in and said, I just snuck out my house to buy a gift card so I could subscribe to you. What does that mean? I didn't know what to say. And I just said, oh dear. And I didn't respond to that, and my whole chat went silent. And with that, let's take some questions. Hi, lovely. What's your question?
Hi, my name is Cozy Mel, and I do a lot of Twitch streaming, and I've recently started to kind of try to dabble into YouTube. And I think what you described with your series and actually building, seeing that drop off of the later episodes getting, how do you kind of deal with that in a way of, like you want to learn from statistics, but I guess my question is kind of how do you take video statistics and see, okay, is this doing well or not? Or do you just do what you want to do and don't really care if it does well? Or
the serialized content strategy is good except for when a series, episode 1's always the best because it's a new idea. And so it hurts when you upload an episode 1 and it is not, you're like, okay, this is a 1,000 view stream. Okay, got it. Like this series is not going to take off. You're kind of locked in for the long run unless you decide that you want to bail halfway through. Many people do, and that's okay. I've kind of made a rule for myself that when I start something, I'm going to get to the finale. A way that I've done that recently with Rats 2. Rats 2 was an SMP that I ran, which wasn't as big as Rats 1, and I recognized that I was running out of time to get everything done, and every video I uploaded was going to be a 10 out of 10, so it was just constantly getting worse and worse. And so I decided, I spoke to my friends and I was like, okay, well, let's save money on thumbnails, money on time, like time management. I will take these 5 episodes that I've got and I'm going to make a 2-hour-long video that all goes up in one go. And that's going to get us all the way to the finale very quickly. And so if people aren't interested, they don't have to watch it. And those that do end up watching it. And I've seen a lot of success from that. But I think if on a case-by-case basis, it's going to be about looking at like, okay, the trajectory of this isn't looking great. Do I want to bail now or do I want to kind of like lock in and see if I can get it to the end? And I think there's a lot of value in finishing something. But yeah, it does have to be a case-by-case thing.
Okay. Can I also add to this? Because I remember when I uploaded my very first episode of my series that is currently sitting at 124 episodes and still going. I don't know if I'll ever finish it, but we'll see. I started and it got like 20 views and I was like, shit, this is a terrible idea. I should not do this. I continued, I pushed through, and that first episode still finds new viewers. There are still people that are like, I am so thankful that there is now a series that I can binge watch. And there's people that rewatch the whole thing because they're like, I forgot something about earlier. So also as long as you're having fun, I think personally, I love the fun metric in it. If you're having a good time creating that content, then especially for series, the metrics are just really weird to look at. So they're not the most trustworthy data. So then trust like your happiness data on it more.
Thank you very much.
People will watch long series as well, like One Piece.
Yeah, exactly.
Thousands of episodes.
My God. I won't start. Hi. What's your question?
Hi, my name is McCakes. I also kind of have a question about metrics. I have a Twitch channel, and it's like, I've been doing it for many years, and I love it, and I've recently started trying to do YouTube, and I'm slowly but surely growing that channel with shorts and longer form stuff, and I have no upload schedule. Whenever I have the spoons for it, I get something done. And my shorts are very consistently over 5,000 views, let's say, and I'm very proud of that. And then I uploaded my most recent short, and it got 15 views. And I did everything exactly the same, and now I don't know what to do. And I know that this is like, oh, well, if you're proud of the video, whatever, but I am proud of the video, and I'd like more than 15 people to see it. And I don't know if this is like, what's the etiquette around re-uploading? Like,
Okay,
does
so
it matter?
I'm so sorry. I'm going to jump in here. I was on a call with YouTube Flex. I was on a call with YouTube and they actually explained this to me. So how their algorithm works is very different to how it works on like TikTok or Instagram. TikTok or Instagram tends to go up, and then if it doesn't do well within the first few days, it's like, oh, you might as well delete it. No, just kidding. Don't do that. So how theirs works is as people start searching for something, it will start to grow. So I've had the same thing. I've been like, damn, I've got like 4 million views. Check me out. And basically, I'm like, God, I'm on my way to getting one of those like nice plaques soon. And then I posted another one, and it's like 4, and I'm like, I've never been so humbled in my life, right? So how it actually works is as more people start searching for stuff, it will come up. Do not delete your YouTube videos. This is what they explained to me, because they start to do well later on. I have got stuff up there and I was getting notifications that it's now reached 1 million. It's been up there for a year. It's sat really low, but just if it's on YouTube, you just leave it. The algorithm runs very differently. So essentially upload it, don't look at it.
Even for shorts?
Sure, that's exactly specifically for shorts. Upload it, leave it, don't look at it. It's fine. It might do well in the future.
Forever.
Yeah, that's what they told me on this call. But overall, that's just something that I just wanted to. But yeah, I hope that helps.
That's awesome insight. Yeah,
Yeah.
really, thank you.
Just leave it. It's fine.
I will. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Noah MP3. Some of you might know me up there. Hi, big fans. I've been doing Twitch for a little while, and I recently also, wow, what a pattern, recently started to trickle into YouTube. And I noticed that I really enjoyed making these like long form content videos, but the time scale between like scripting, getting a guest over, actually filming the video, then also actually editing the video, it's like a whole time scale of like 3 to 4 weeks. And I feel like I want to get content out more consistently in this exact long form. So like at what point do I cut for more consistency and maybe like cut some more quality? Is there like a balance you would recommend for that? Or
I don't remember where I was talking to someone about this, but I think on YouTube, it's a lot of people think about like, oh, I have to put out like a video every single week. But there is channels that grow to massive success by posting every 2 months, because that video is of such high quality and they invested a lot of time in the editing and the scripting, and they made sure that when people found that video, they loved it, and then they did expectation management in the video. They're like, hey, you know, because these videos take a lot of time to make. I love them. I'm passionate. I want to make sure that I can commit to this. I'll post another one in 2 months. And they were consistent still. They were just consistent with bigger gaps, and that still worked. So it's not impossible to do that.
okay.
And if you're kind of struggling in terms of financial, like if you're relying on ad revenue and you can only get it 1 every 2 months, it's not very uncommon for people who do those longer essay style videos to have patrons. They really manage to get, they have the Patreon thank yous at the end, and it's a great call to action there as well. But I've seen a lot of people get a lot of success only uploading, like you say, once every 2 months, and kind of having the financial stability from that as well.
Okay, fair.
Cool.
It's unmonetized, so it's all
Okay, but sure. Well, then especially
nice.
Patreon might be a good shout, because you might find people who are willing to support you for making all of that long content.
Thank you very much.
I'm too short for this mic. Hello. Hi. I'm Rose. Hello. This is from the people who can't be here. This is their question. I can't do this. How do you avoid falling into the trap of optimizing for metrics instead of building a meaningful community, especially when algorithms reward performance over connection?
If I can tap on that, for example, the video that I said about the truck, that went very well. And if I focused a lot on the metrics, I would have had to create more and more and more and more raging content and crashing the car eventually. And finally, maybe not.
You wouldn't be here anymore.
Yeah, no, not a best idea. So like, for sure, like you want to think about the metrics and what works. You want to just try to rehab it again, try to to find a way to have it in the same way because it worked. So you want to try to find what's good with it. But at the same time, you still want to think, what is that going to bring me? Like, do you want to just get big and that's it? Do you want to just get more followers, or do you want to have a valuable community and enjoy what you're doing? I think that's where you want to set yourself.
I think that was good.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Rose.
Okay, good afternoon. I have a question. I make parodies on YouTube and I stream them live on Twitch. But yeah, how to let my viewers know that I stream my parodies live on Twitch? What do you recommend?
Mention it throughout your videos. make like a little thing. You can do that in whatever, in PowerPoint even, like a little thing with the Twitch logo and your name, and then export it as a PNG. And then every single time in your YouTube video, like, hey, if you guys ever want to see this live, come hang out on Twitch, and then put your username in your video and put it in your description box so that people have like a quick link to click. And just don't be afraid to self-promo in your own content.
Thank you.
Also, I would say put it everywhere, because I can sometimes put my YouTube link, whatever, everywhere, and people will still blatantly ask, what's your YouTube? And you would have exclamation mark YouTube in your title, you would have a button on your panel, like it would be everywhere. So I don't think you can be wrong in adding a button, adding your link, adding it everywhere.
Okay. I told self to put it in the end of the video from watch this with pictures of my channel. Is that a good idea?
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely, yeah.
But don't be afraid to also mention it earlier, not just at the end, because most people will watch like at least the first like couple of minutes of your video are the most watched. So mention it also just in the beginning of like, hey, are you enjoying this so far? Come over to my Twitch channel to watch this live.
Yeah.
Nice. Good idea. I thought maybe for the parody begins, but the picture I stream also on this kind of platforms and then start the parody.
Go for it.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Nice one. Hi there, guys. So, a bit of a specific question for myself. A lot of the content that I'm going to be starting to make is not very video game directed. My history is in the UK. I work as a physiotherapist. I've basically just qualified being a snowboard instructor.
I'm a bit hurt here, by the way.
Oh yeah, just later on afterwards. So what I'm hoping to build is basically physiotherapy plus the snowboard instructing stuff together. A little bit of a hiccup I had, because I like to plan things a little bit theory crafting before jumping straight into it, is a case of going like, right, I feel like in terms of things like TikTok, Instagram, that side of social media, it's how to keep consistent. I think what you mentioned with the scheduling side of things, I was like, oh, I didn't even know that was a thing. That's great. So it's a case of going, okay, balancing out, trying to make really good quality content, but balancing that out with, oh, I feel like I need to be uploading stuff at least semi-regularly that's maybe not of that same quality. Just wondering if you had any ideas or advice how to manage that mix in the interim.
Okay, I do this quite a lot. Like, this is going to sound so nasty, but this is what I had to do. I just had to get over myself. Like, it just doesn't matter. So occasionally, like, you're like, oh my God, it's just not as great or whatever. Like, it just doesn't really matter. I have a rule with myself where I make drafts all the time, especially in something like TikTok, because you can just film it and be like, draft, whatever. So I film myself being like, don't ask me how I did it. I just did it. It was hard. And then I'm like, okay, cool. That's it. That's the video. It's literally nothing. Every time I do that, it's like 200,000 views. And I'm like, for what? But regardless, I'm like, okay, cool. So I found something that kind of works. Now, what I tend to do when I have like some time off, especially because I used to work a full-time job, is I used to schedule them all, or like I used to put them in my drafts. And then I have a rule: if I find myself doom scrolling or I'm on a social media site when I shouldn't be, because I should be doing something else, I have to open the draft and post something. Does not matter what it is. So I am just constantly posting stuff, or I have to find something to post. So I give myself purpose on that. I think sometimes we can get in our heads and like really overthink that we're like, oh my God, I have to be posting something every single time in the day. Like, it doesn't really matter. What's more important is that you're showing up. And it does sound mean just being like, just get over yourself or something. But like, other people aren't really thinking that. Like, you're in your own head. So for me, it was just post and just throw stuff out there and like hope it catches flight. That's how I personally managed it. I don't do video game content. So for me, it was a case of finding little bits and really low effort stuff as well. Just sometimes does better. And this is going to sound so mean, but if you watch some of the biggest streamers, see like how scuffed their streams are, and it really makes you feel better about how much you're like putting too much thought into what you're doing sometimes. So like, if they can go live without a starting soon screen, they don't have a be right back screen, they don't have all of this stuff, they barely have alerts, like, like, it's fine, right? Like, and like, they're the biggest streamers. So like, overall, I think things like that are fine. We've all seen it. So I feel like, you know, it's important to kind of like just assess yourself and be like, wow, that was humbling. So I'd look at that. Sure. Sorry, I've like totally hijacked that. So
You're doing great.
What's your starting soon screen like?
Sorry, I don't have a starting soon. I'll add it.
So your question was it just so I can understand, Was it about what type of content to upload in that niche that you have, or like how do you get yourself to be able to upload it?
Yeah, it's more kind of a case of going like, okay, I know that on one side of things, especially with the physiotherapy plus the snowboarding stuff, there's a lot of like very technical content in there, which I'm like, okay, I don't feel great about just being, there's a lot of health content out there that's very generic, and ethically that's like, you know, a bit of a point.
Hard to cover that quickly.
Exactly, yeah. So it's a case of going like, right, like how do I fill in the times, maybe like similar to a previous question, like how do I fill that time between when I'm doing those posts that have a bit more detail and technical content in them with stuff that's still meaningful that I can still be showing up for, like you're saying over here.
I think monitoring the trends, like we are, there is a part of our job which is about monitoring trends and following them. Obviously, we want to be trendsetters, but I think don't be afraid to, don't doom scroll, but do check out the vibe of what TikTok is like or what Instagram is like currently enjoying, and then trying to figure out how you can fit the genre of snowboarding into that. I think you'll probably have an easier time with the snowboarding bit than the physiotherapy bit. Sure. But that's not to say that I don't think you could do it. Yeah, trying to kind of take your genre and fit it into the trend. I've seen a lot of people in Minecraft have great success taking something that I wouldn't expect to be a trend in Minecraft and kind of fitting it into that.
And also, it could also be that I feel like in physiotherapy and snowboarding, there must be so many questions of people. So just very low quality content of you just taking the question of someone, answering to the question, just you face, phone, that's it, 10, maybe less than 10 minutes answering to a question could already be very valuable. And sometimes those, I see them going viral just because you answer to some question that many people have. So it's just as easy.
Also, maybe interesting, people use YouTube as Google sometimes. Oh. So they will genuinely type in a question, and if it's relevant for your niche, you have a video about that question, you will show up at the top.
I think there's a video on YouTube on how to close a window. On like how to close a window, like the window on the computer.
How lost are they?
On AI. And like viral.
That was one of my best videos. How dare you?
Thank you so much. I'm so sorry, but that's all we've got time for today. But thank you very, very much to everyone who has joined us here today. And I really hope you've learned something. So please, can we have a round of applause for our panelists today? Thank you so much. Now, we're going to have to clear the room out because there's going to be another panel coming in. So if you guys want to have photos or anything, I'm going to have to ask you to do it outside in the most polite way. Please get out.
Thank you, guys.